I am glad that you're here. We had some technological issues. I went and ended up playing, or not playing, ended up changing a blowout diaper. But you know what? That's real, that's life, and that is fatherhood. So I do apologize for being a little bit late. Ashley and Nathan have been so generous going out of their way to make sure that they're able to have a great internet connection for the summit so that they can talk to each and every single one of you guys. Thank you guys for that. It is much appreciated. But you know what? That's what living full-time from the road is all about. It has those challenges. It has those, those fun memories. If you guys don't know who Ashley and Nathan are, they are full-time travelers. The awesome thing about that is they literally look at each other and say, hey, sweetie, I feel like going to Washington, D.C., and they get to get up and do it. Their entire life, the way that they have built their life has been completely built around the family life that they want to have. Their 3 kids are in the back, and that is so phenomenal. So, and I'm sure you guys have some challenges and some great things to talk about going and living and just going full-time on the road. So give us a little bit of an introduction. What made you guys want to go full-time on the road, and what are some of the family challenges that you guys have dealt with?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us on. And yes, apologize for the technical difficulties. One of the big challenges on the road is finding great internet. And there are all kinds of threads about how to get great internet. And sometimes even when you think you have it, like I did, 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before, poof, it's all gone. And yes, so we are coming to you live from a Walmart parking lot in Sarasota, Florida today. And and that's just kind of part of it is that we've learned a lot about flexibility and kind of rolling with the way things go. And the beauty of it is, like you said, if we want to go somewhere, we can up and move. And that has been something that has been pretty great, that even, bad weather comes and we don't stay. So we do get to follow rainbows and sunshine everywhere we go, which has been pretty fabulous. But yeah, we have been on the road for 2 years, and you want to say a little bit about?
Yeah, we started experimenting with it probably 4 or 5 years ago actively. It was an idea we've been kicking around for a long time, but we started to experiment with using our house to, be an asset for us rather than a liability. We started to use that and went on a trip to Costa Rica for a month during that time. And that kind of got our juices flowing and our wheels turning on how we could continue to, keep that excitement in our lives. And so we were kind of at a stage in our life where we were looking at buying that next big house, as you typically do. And our income was going up. The house needed to change. We needed more space. And we watched Tiny Houses, a documentary on tiny houses, and we were like, man, that's a camper. So we ought to give that a whirl and see what we think about that. So we jumped into that, and it's been pretty awesome. I think that, learning to kind of not freak out during moments like this, where everything isn't going beautifully perfect is, that's been a big lesson that we've had, or at least I've had to learn, is just kind of relaxing and letting life kind of come at you rather than trying to be so reactive and responsive to it. Just understanding is part of it.
And that has definitely been so when we were talking about leveraging our house, we did that by renting our house out on Airbnb. So that became a stream of income that helps to support our travels. And after going to Costa Rica, part of us just wanted to up and move to Costa Rica, but we figured that there was a whole lot of our own home country that we had not explored. So at this point, we've been on the road it was 2 years in October, and we have seen 48 states. So we still have Hawaii and Alaska left. And yeah, we've absolutely loved it. But I think that when it comes to dealing with those struggles and those ups and downs, the biggest thing that has helped us in order to be successful in this lifestyle has been in understanding the personality styles of everybody in our family. And I know that that's kind of the hot topic for the day. And that has been huge. And I think that, a lot of families can kind of go through life in a little bit more of reaction mode, where they're simply reacting to what happens, especially when you're talking about these tiny little curveballs that come, and each one, has a different demand, a different need, and you can have everything all perfectly mapped out, and then a blowout diaper happens, and your day has shifted. So there are a lot of different changes that can happen, and in understanding our personality styles, we can understand how to support one another and communicate in a way that really we receive well, and understand just kind of what each person needs, because some people in our family really need a challenge, and that's what motivates us. Some people in our family really need everybody to just go away and give them some alone time. And understanding that has been huge, and I think has kept us from having some of the intense struggles that I think could have hit us, especially living in less than 240 square feet together.
Yeah, I think, really understanding really what people's tension points are, what our kids' tension points are and ours, and being very open about that and transparent with, I need a break. And when you live in I call it a mobile closet, it's like 240 square feet. That's the size of some folks' closets. It is tiny. And so, a couple rainy days, it can get a little tight. It can get a little tense. And so just recognizing that, being, kind of laughing it off and moving on to let's figure out how we can get a little break,
Yeah.
That's great. I love this idea of understanding each other's personality styles so that you can build a bigger and a stronger marriage. And not only that, but building your children up. So how has understanding these personality styles, how has it brought you guys closer in your marriage?
Well, I think for me, in our marriage, when you look at the DISC personality styles, Ashley is a DI and I am an IS. And so what I can kind of do in my personality sometimes is layer things and kind of stuff things down and put them to the side. And that may be a man thing, that may be a personality thing. But one of the things we started doing very early on in our relationship is kind of expressing the truth as we saw it. And that was, when this happens, I feel, X, Y, and Z. I think starting to be transparent with that has really helped us to have compassion and understanding for each other when, we're not our best selves, when we are, when we let our personalities kind of run loose and wild, and that can happen. But I think that understanding how Ashley is, accepts and perceives praise, understanding how to do that with your spouse and your children can really change your relationship, because you're making those deposits that they appreciate and they understand.
Yeah, so a quick summary for those of you that don't know what DISC is. So there's a lot of personality assessments out there, but an easy way to explain it, especially for you families with young children. My 6-year-old, cannot call her 5 anymore. My 6-year-old can easily identify the different personality styles. So this is why I love DISC so much, is because it's super simple, and I can connect it to animals, which of course, most people can get a pretty quick visual image. If I say a lion and an eagle, you think those leaders, highly driven, get to the end result, very goal-driven, leadership type of roles. That would be your high D. And then your I would be like an otter or a peacock. Life of the party, look at me, very engaging and gregarious, loves to tell stories. That would be your high I. And then your S is like a golden retriever or a dove. They are your loyal, steady, faithful, great listeners, peacemakers. They don't care for conflict, and they like things to be kind of slow and steady and consistent. And then your C's are like a beaver or an owl. You think of an owl being that symbol of wisdom, because it's these people that they like to know the facts. They check the facts, and they love the details, and are very analytical and logical and systematic in the way they go. So those are just the quick summaries of the different personality styles. So in understanding the fact that I am a high DI, Nathan put me in my place very early on in our relationship when I was known as Last Word Ashley, and I liked to have the upper hand. And so I always had a rebuttal for everything. And sometimes that rebuttal was putting him in his place, and it wasn't very nice. And he stopped me one time and he asked me one simple sentence.
Master, what is your goal?
And I felt about that big at that point because I started to think about it and realize, what is my goal? Just to be a jerk to him? I mean, here I am supposed to be loving and caring and say that I want to spend the rest of my life with this guy, yet what is my goal in doing this, and why am I saying this? And so what he did is he spoke to me in a way that really connected with my personality style, because I'm all about goals. And that really helped me to kind of reframe how I was going to engage with him. And then on the flip side, for him being this S personality style, SI, I can have a tendency to come in with a mission, and I'm gonna, bark orders at everybody, and I'm gonna, jot it all down, or like this, where, hey, we're gonna do a Facebook Live, and oh, hey, babe, I completely forgot. We've got an interview in like 5 minutes. Okay, that would freak him out. Yeah. That wouldn't happen. I understand that for his personality style, instant spontaneous and being put on the spot for something is not a way to win favor with him. And so me understanding this and knowing that I need to prep this a little bit more, and maybe instead of coming in and telling him this is what's going to happen, maybe I say, hey, what do you feel about this? Is this a good time for us to discuss this? And so me learning how to pull myself back a little bit, not because he's slow or because I can't be who I am, but out of respect for our different personality styles, I can say, I really want to not just communicate, because I can communicate by just spouting out words, but I want to truly connect. And in order to connect with him, I want to make sure that he's ready to receive, and that I've earned the right to then have this conversation, as opposed to just barreling through because I have an agenda.
I completely understand that, and there's so much great knowledge in there already. Looks like we have a couple of shout-outs. Hey, Chad Wise, hope you're doing all right. My sister's also watching. Hey, Melissa. Okay, she's got a question before I keep on going on. She asks, is it hard to make steady friends for you and your children while you guys are traveling so much?
Girls, has it been hard to socialize on the road?
No.
No?
Do you wish you had more friends, or are you happy with the one? I guess you always want more friends.
No, because every single playground, I always make a friend.
That's right. So Ellie, being a high I, is our friend finder, and she does. We have found that there is a lot of opportunity for community, and sometimes at campgrounds, when you move into a new town and you've got this neighbor next to you, sometimes there's some hesitancy on how well do you want to get to know this person because you're stuck next to them for the next 30 years or something like that. Whereas in a campground, if you don't like your neighbors, you just move. And so it's pretty easy. So what happens is a lot of times people's guards are let down even more, and they're more willing to engage and to be open because that risk is pretty minimal. And so we found just a lot of friendliness just within the campgrounds, and then have also connected with the community that there are a lot of RV communities that are out there. And I just saw a study that I can't remember who did the poll, but there's 1 million RVers in the U.S. right now.
Living full time,
yeah,
and
not
so
just part-time. Yeah.
At this point, it's really just the limitation of your desire. We have friends that we have connected with over the years that are living like this, that are friends with the girls, and so if we're in the same part of the country together, man, we'll get together. We just got with a bunch of friends that just bought a boat, and they were all friends that they're going to go sailing with their son, and they christened and named their boat, and we went to a renaming ceremony, and there are 5 or 6 other full-time families that all drove about 45 minutes to an hour to be there. And so there's just that kind of community. You certainly have to make that effort. You have to step out and be willing to shake a hand. But, when you join like a Facebook community like Full-Time Families, that was our concern, was we wouldn't have that for our kids. In our first 3 months of travel, we didn't. And it wasn't until we got involved with that community that it completely changed for us.
Yeah, and now we could travel with people all the time. So we kind of, I mean, we
only
travel
camp
alone when we want to.
When we want, yeah.
Right. So we'll specifically stage it. Nathan likes to call the rallies binge friending because it's like family camp. I mean,
it is.
Everybody's on campfires every night.
It's an all-you-can-eat buffet of friends. I mean, it's always going on. It never stops. And so we found for our lifestyle, we'll do that for a week, and then we're just worn out. And so we'll get into a state park where it's nice and quiet. And we'll hang out there for a week to recover. We won't talk to anybody for a week.
But yeah, the beauty of having a transient lifestyle is that, the internet connects us. Social media, there are lots of ways that people connect with people all across the country. When you are transient, a lot of times there is more of an opportunity for you to connect in real life. And so we've met all of these full-time families through this Facebook group. There's 28,000 members in the open group for that. And, we meet people that are on there, and then we say, hey, we're in town, and everybody meets up. So it's been really cool because then we have really been able to utilize social media for what I see as a major positive, that it is simply to open the door to then be able to meet face to face and have those real life interactions, which has been so valuable for us.
Man, that's awesome. I absolutely love it. It reminds me of a book that your daughter wrote, and it's, you're only limited by your mind.
Right.
You're only limited by your imagination.
Yes.
And just a fantastic book. Yep. What if it were possible? Definitely go check that out, especially if you've got young children. So how has understanding personality styles, how has that made you guys both better parents?
Oh man, because it really has opened the door or helped us to see, I thought I was an expert in parenting until I had children, and then realized, no, nobody is an expert in parenting. And when you have one, it doesn't mean you know how to raise the rest of them, because everyone is so different. And so we really saw that, especially, having two drastic differences in our first two children. So Clara was she's very high C. She's very detailed and analytical, and she's an introvert, and she likes to have that downtime to recharge. And this was very obvious when, in my head, being a socialite too. I have that I personality where I like to throw parties and stuff. And I distinctly remember when she was 4, we had a big birthday party for her. And of course I'm like, we're going to invite all of her friends, which at this point, again, introverted child, did not care to socialize. Most play dates, I was dragging her and she's sitting in my lap waiting for when we can leave. And I'm just talking to the moms, completely not even what I had intended it to be. And so here I am, I have her whole preschool come over to our house, and we did a big party. And, by 7:00, she was absolutely done. Epic meltdown, absolutely fried. And this was one of those wake-up calls of, was this really for her, or was this more catering to my personality style? She could have cared less about these kids.
And what was also telling about that experience is our middle daughter, Ellie, who is a high I.
Right.
She was bouncing off the walls and could not go to sleep, but she was like, man, this is my juice. I dig this. And so it really, what it does is it helps you to learn how to connect and kind of help them see the world through their eyes, through their, we have our own positive reinforcements and our own kind of negative reinforcements. And the profiles really help you kind of figure out with your child, okay, well, it's not necessarily how they are. That's not, it's not a fair assessment, but it certainly gives you a leaning for, well, I know that if we're going to go do something that is a public event, then we need to make sure we have some recharge time set aside in our schedule for our oldest child. So how can we make that work through the day? So it's just taking that into consideration. Or, if there's not the window, you can go ahead and have a conversation to help them emotionally prepare themselves for what they're walking into. And that helps us to, navigate life a little easier.
Right. I mean, even something as simple as timeout. You know, so a lot of people will use timeout as a discipline strategy. Well, in our household, timeout is a reward for Clara and a punishment for Ellie, because of their personality style. So if I were to have done the same tactic for every child, then, you know, either way, somebody's having an issue with that. And so instead of doing that, you know, we give opportunities to reset and to recharge and to have a break. And at this point, you know, our youngest, who is a D personality style, she will put, it's not time out, but she'll go into her room, and she's been on with Ellie playing like crazy. And then there comes a point where she's done, and she's comes up, she says, I need a reset. And she goes back and she has that opportunity to chill. So really understanding them has helped us to not squash those different personalities, but help them learn how to channel them in a positive way. So maybe that high energy isn't something that's just you're hyperactive and you need to be still, but this is a beautiful part of who you are. So now let's look at how we can use this as a positive for people by the fact that you can go out and find friends anywhere. And let's also look at how you're going to build awareness to navigate around those people that don't really want to be pulled out into the limelight all the time.
And that's a great point. And one we try to really point out to our girls is that those strengths, when run amok or running loose and wild, can become your weaknesses very, very easily. And so just the self-awareness and the emotional intelligence of that has been really, it's almost like we use baby signing time when our kids are really small for communication. And I feel like the profile is kind of in that same vein for emotional intelligence. It allows you to have that connection, that communication on a level that, you know, sometimes you feel like a parent, you're just shooting in the dark until something, you know, get a ringer, right? And you just keep trying stuff until it works. And this really kind of helped to open up the door for, okay, well, this leads her down desire. So how can we use that and kind of structure her life so that it creates a win-win environment for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Man, some great gold nuggets of information. I'm loving this. I'm taking mental notes. You know, I'm already ready to go back and watch this again because of the great information you guys are offering. So, you know, and studying personality styles, and you guys have said that, you know, your personality styles in your girls are completely different at times. So what are some of the best ways to develop an individual's personality style, especially your child, and, you know, especially if it's something different than what yours is?
Well, you know, for us, I think our biggest desire is to find a thread of curiosity for them. You know, what drives their curiosity? What are they interested in? And so, like with our oldest daughter, you know, her interests are, you know, she can sit and work on a project for hours, and she is patient and methodical. And our middle daughter, who's coming of age, she doesn't like to sit still and work on those things. She will for a while, but there's a threshold of I have to be moving my body. And so recognizing that, you know, we can do one of two things. We can say, just sit down, just stop moving, sit still. Or we can try to figure out, okay, well, you know, how can I utilize this so that everybody's winning and everybody's learning and we're kind of stretching ourselves. And so we will do a lot of, you know, our education is a lot of hands-on. And part of that is all of our girls enjoy physical activity. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great way for Ellie to learn. And it piggybacks off of Clara can easily do a project, you know, while we're moving. A lot of times we'll do things in the state parks that are junior ranger programs. And that involves running around, doing the work. But it's a great program that kind of touches every personality style in a way to kind of give them an opportunity to dance.
Right. So we, with our travels and everything else, we unschool our children. And so I'm going to pop quiz you guys. Where do you go to school?
Everywhere.
Who's your teacher?
Everyone.
There you go. So we have that philosophy, and a big part of it is what Nathan was saying with that curiosity. We believe strongly that they learn best when they are internally motivated. And that internal motivation is going to be different for each child. So understanding the personality styles, I now know that for Clara, her internal motivation is she loves to research and dig deep. So when she said, I want to beta fish, we said, all right, write a book report on it. She says, what's a book report? I'm like, it's a sheet that gives you some information. And next thing I know, I have a 20-page pamphlet with so many amazing things that blew my mind about beta fish that I didn't know. She'd done all of this research, and by the time we were done with it, between her researching the animal and then price shopping the content and then calling stores and everything else, we'd covered, math and science and social skills and economics and all of these different aspects in this one core thing. Whereas with Ellie, her internal motivation is that social aspect. So it's, what are we going to do together? How can we make it fun and a game? And then for Juliet, if I say, I bet you can't, well, right there, that challenge, she's motivated. She's going to prove me wrong.
She's easy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Now I lost it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I was on a roll there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I think sometimes in that same thing, like with talking about Claire, a lot of times we're very fearful for the compartmentalization of knowledge, that we've got to do this here and this there. And our lives don't really work that way. Usually it's a blending and it dances in and out. And we're in a stage now where information is free and easy to access. And so allowing them to learn how to process information, to work through content, rather than just, rogue mental memorization. So just a totally different approach. But you see them interested, which is very different, I think, than what my experience was in my schooling.
That's great. I completely agree. A year ago, or it might be a little bit more, but I was listening to actually your dad's podcast, Dan Miller, and he was talking about how he either doesn't or he doesn't like to say no to his children or his grandchildren because it gives them a chance to be creative and explore. Talk to us a little bit about allowing them to find their own creativity. And, does that mean you don't have boundaries on I can't talk now. You don't have boundaries on your children, or do you direct the boundaries? So how do you guys kind of walk those lines to where you're allowing your children to be creative, but at the same time safe?
Oh man, that's a good one.
That is a great question. I mean, one of the things that we set up was a very easy family mission statement, which is explore, respect, listen, connect, learn, and love. And so as we are exploring, respecting the world around us is a big part of that, and respecting the safety and those factors. One of the things that we discuss when we're going into an environment, we don't usually just walk into, an antique shop and just let our kids go wild. Now, what we will do is we'll talk about the expectation of behavior. People are expecting kids to go wild. It makes them very nervous, and you'll watch their body language. And we're explaining this. And sometimes, like with my younger two, we would go in and we would practice. We'd say, let's go into this store. Let's see how long we can last before we touch something. And as soon as we touch something, that's our zapper. We got to go. It's not a, no, don't touch it. It's just like we know. Everybody looks at it like, she touched it. We're done. So we bolt out and we talk about, what went well, what didn't go well, why we felt the need to touch, and what we would do next time. And so,
yeah, it's not so much, so often we as parents, the first time that we discipline, we set boundaries, is when we're reacting to what they did wrong. And so we react, and then that's how our discipline strategy comes out, is it's a reaction to a negative behavior. Whereas when we are working with animals, we train a horse. In the Amish, they train their horses to make sure that they don't, run off and get spooked, because that's of course a very dangerous thing. And so they work very diligently to train that horse before it pulls the buggy. We train our pets. We had a dog pass away right before I had a baby, and I said, we're either getting a dog right now and we're training the fire out of her before baby, or we're not, because a rambunctious dog and an infant is too much. So we spend all this time training our animals, but how often do we proactively set that expectation with our kids? So for us, it's not so much you cannot talk unless spoken to, you cannot jump on the couch, you cannot do this. It's not so much that we have all of these regulations as much as we prepare in advance for things. We talk about, okay, so in this setting, What do you think would work best? Are we going to, if everybody's talking at once, is anybody being heard right now? No. How can we do this differently? If we're going to somebody's house, do you think it's a good idea to jump on their couch? Well, no. Okay. Well, then that's probably not a good idea. But we'll prep them ahead of time and we'll talk through things. And one of the biggest aspects of understanding boundaries and everything is also recognizing their impact. We let them know at the very beginning, you are important. What you do is not just about you. You make a significant impact on everybody else. And sometimes, kids are self-centered. They do believe the world revolves around them. And we believe that for us as parents, part of our responsibility is to help them navigate the fact that that's not the case. Because I would much rather them get that gentle correction from us that says, hey, guess what? I know you were having a blast, but did you notice how your sister was going, please stop talking? Maybe that's a hint that you're making a negative impact on somebody else. And I would much rather that happen in a loving environment in our home than for us to just kind of let things slide, and then they get a vicious slap in the face out there in the real world. So that's kind of where we try to do it proactively. And of course, things still happen and curveballs still happen for everybody. And then those are times where we debrief afterward and we talk about it. And we talk about what our frustrations were, what did and didn't work, and what we can do better. So we are constantly on a period of a process of course correction and growth, not just for our children, but for us in our relationship, in our own personal development, and in our parenting. And I can say now, the parents we were 11 years ago when we first started out with this is very different than the parents that we are now. So we've got to give grace for growth no matter what age you are.
Love that answer. And I think that's something that we can all do a lot better at when we stop reacting to circumstances and start proacting and thinking ahead, planning, understanding and like what you guys were saying, our children's personality styles, then we can take those. And parenting doesn't have to be this massive headache or a curse. It can be this blessing, this awesome thing. And I love that about what you guys are saying. So Ashley, I'm going to give you a chance, here for a minute to brag a little bit on Nathan. So what are some different things that you see Nathan doing well to encourage and implement value into your children?
Oh my goodness. Some of it is just his ability and his desire to stop and be present and to meet them where they are and to listen to them and validate their feelings, especially with the father figures. Sometimes there is this expectation that you're kind of stuck in this machoism type of role. And so, a kid falls down and cries, you say, buck up, don't cry, you're fine. And Nathan doesn't do that. How can he say you're fine? He can't tell a child that they are fine when it's their emotion, and he recognizes that. And so the fact that Nathan will rush to comfort first and be there, or let them process it through on their own and struggle through it. But either way, validating our children at no matter what stage that they are at, validating the fact that their emotions are what they are, meeting them there, and then encouraging them to grow and showing support to be there with them. It has been, I think, the reason why he has such an incredibly close relationship with his 3 daughters like this is because they do feel heard, and they do feel like he's not just telling them to toughen up, but he's supporting them in their growth and being willing to grow alongside them. That's just been beautiful to see.
I will say they're really tough though, and I'll push them because
the kids are really tough.
Oh yeah, the kids are really tough. Yeah. Because I don't want that to come across either as they aren't challenged, because just like 2 days ago I took them on an 11-mile mountain biking ride and they wanted to quit.
11-mile bike ride.
Yeah, and so we wanted to get in the middle. We wanted to quit, and so I've got a choice there of to be more of the drill sergeant and whip and let's go, or I know it's tough. But either we're going to camp here tonight and stop, or we're going to push on through.
Yeah.
and I know how to push on through. So come on, it's just one pedal at a time. And so, we will do it that way. We'll get through difficult situations, but there are times where they're upset, and the best thing for me to do is shut this and open this and just hold them, because there's been multiple times where they have come up upset for reasons I have zero idea. I give them a hug, and I don't say a word, and all they say to me is, I needed that. And I'll be with parents, and they'll say, what was that all about? I said, I don't need to know. The problem's over.
Yeah. The fact that they're willingly running up to him to do that and recognize that that's all the comfort they need. It doesn't need to be fixed or corrected. It just needs to be just to know he's there.
Just accept it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nathan. I was about to ask you kind of the same question: is how are you intentional about fatherhood, especially when you're the dad of 3 girls? As men, a lot of times we have no idea how girls are feeling and their emotional journey and different things like that. So,
I mean, they do. Well, here's the thing: is like when I came from all boys. And so did Ashley. Her background is all boys. And so this is really new territory for us. And what that required was for me to kind of transition my framework and my foundation for what a father looked like. And I've been very fluid and flexible with that over my life. I've allowed that to, there was a time where I was very, very strict and hard. And it just wasn't, the connection that I desired wasn't coming from that. And so it's taken some work and some growth, but I think kind of letting go of maybe that egoic, this is what I'm supposed to do, or this is what I'm supposed to be, and kind of opening up to maybe a more tender approach of accepting the feelings, because these are real things that are churning up inside of them, and they don't really understand what's going on. And usually when you feel out of control, just putting your hand on something to brace and get yourself together is what you need to do. And I've kind of learned that has helped. And so if I see something that cracks open a little bit of a door, then I'll push forward in that. If it looks like it's closing, then we'll back off. But it's again, understanding how they receive praise is a big one. Knowing to, walk up to Ellie and just say, I just appreciate you today. That's the stuff that are those little tiny deposits that we make consistently, that I think kind of give us, I know I need mulligans because I mess up all the time. And so that really helps to pave a foundation for that.
Yeah.
An absolute great answer. And that requires you to be intentional about this thing called fatherhood. And I absolutely love that. I love seeing your family and the closeness that you guys have created, this house, this home, even if it's in a camper, where you guys are very close, tight-knit family. So Nathan, I'll go ahead and ask you this question first, as we're starting to wrap up. What are some different ways that you guys are intentional as far as your marriage? I imagine being a world traveler, it would be difficult to go on date nights to spend that, quality, intimate time together, and so like how are you guys as travelers, full-time travelers? How are you guys intentional about your guys' marriage?
Well, it's just that. I mean, it's just like exercise. If you don't make time for it, and if you're not intentional with it, it's not going to happen. And so you have to figure out how to work that into your life. And for us, that has looked like having a very clear timeline with our kids, where we're very open and upfront with them that if we are not doing well, then that starts to break things down. It all kind of rolls downhill. You'll start to feel that. Mm-hmm. And it is really important for us to take that time to connect. And so our kids have thankfully respected that, and they understand that. Now, it doesn't mean it's always the case, but it's, they understand that it's a really important part of our relationship. And so after eight or 9 o'clock, things are shut down with the kids, and we tell them this is our time now.
We've clocked out of parenting.
We have clocked out of parenting. If we have a fever, that's fine, but right now this is our time. And so during that time, we can do whatever we wish. And over the years, that has varied. There have been times where, sitting out and kind of defragging on the back porch has been necessary. There have been times where we take turns taking charge of the night for each other. But from a date night perspective, we date every day, and we intentionally show up for each other every single day. And I think that's a mind shift change that, I don't know, it makes you find time. There's a terrible example, but people have affairs all the time. They find a way to get away with somebody else for 20 or 30 minutes. You can do that with your spouse,
right? But
people get lazy with it. And so if you're not intentional and you're not taking that time, it's not going to happen. It doesn't just magically pop up. And so you have to step towards it and work towards it.
Yeah, we found that being on the road has actually ended up being an opportunity where we feel like, we're dating each other all the time. We've gotten the offers of babysitting with different people we've met along the way. And I wrote a blog post on free babysitting and why I turned it down. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're in a different place right now because of the lifestyle that we have chosen, which doesn't just have to do with having an RV. The intentionality of being present in the moment, being aware of our surroundings, being proactive and creating that family that we love. When we started doing that, all of a sudden it wasn't, oh my gosh, I need a babysitter. I need a date night out.
Right.
Because we aren't frazzled where we need to feel we have that need to escape anymore. We're just incorporating it in. And it may be as simple as the kids are playing outside and, we get a moment of one-on-one to steal a kiss in the middle of the day, or we're going on a hike and we reach out and hold each other's hands. And we have found that part of our connection has been for that because of the physical aspect that we bring into it. And we state that, it's very hard to remain emotionally distant when you physically connect on a daily basis. And when we started doing that and making that physical connection such an important priority in our relationship, oh my gosh, there's not that feeling of just needing to get away anymore.
I love that, being open and honest and raw and just being that great example for your children. That way, when they do grow up, and I know as men we're kind of scared of this moment when they do get married, they understand what's expected of them. They know and they see the great example of the man that you're being to your wife, and holding hands and not afraid to build this life and what that looks like. And so I love that about you guys. It's something I definitely respect about you guys. So last quick question, and you guys touched on it a little bit. We need to, in order to be great parents and a great person for our spouse, we need to make sure that we take that time to develop ourselves, to pour into ourselves. That way we can pour it out into our spouse and into our children. What are some ways that you guys have been intentional about developing your guys' selves, and how do you guys pour that into your children?
I definitely believe that the best way that the way we are all teaching our children. We have people that say, I could never homeschool. And I say, well, like it or not, you are their teacher, because we are that model for our children. And so, it is really important for us to practice what we preach. If we're telling them, go read a book, and all they see is us on a phone, that doesn't quite work. Nathan has been great at this, and I struggle with this because in the morning I want to knock out work. I want to get it done. But as much as we can, we wake up in the morning and we read. And we have those times to read books that are just for our own personal development. Yeah. We also are big on being active, and we'll do a lot of things where we're active as a family, but we also, I fully support Nathan going off for a mountain bike ride, because that is not just good for his body, but it's good for his soul, and he needs that, and he thrives and comes alive and is so much he's so refreshed and invigorated when he comes back. And the kids see that, and we all support him in doing that and give him that space to do that. And he does the same thing for me if I want to go for a run and have some time to just be able to push myself in that way. So we do a lot of things as a family where we listen to, Claire is on her second personal development adult self-help book. I noticed yesterday, not only is she reading the book, but she's got a notebook out taking notes of things to apply in her life. And so we don't filter only kid things for them and only adult things for us. We do incorporate a lot together. So we'll listen to TED Talks and podcasts and reading books and doing exercise together.
We make an effort to reflect what lifelong learning looks like.
Right.
Because we believe that just by strewing that in our own behavior around the house, that they will start to reflect that and have. Mm-hmm. And if they're bored, you say, well, look, I'm reading a book. You should come join me. Crawl up on the couch. And so just allowing children to be bored is huge. It's okay for our kids to sit in the back of our truck for 45 minutes and listen to us talk, because it's okay for them to be bored. It really is. And so I think as we parent, we need to have a little grace for ourselves in that regard.
Yeah. We don't have to constantly stimulate our children and keep them focused on something. And sometimes their entertainment can be simply watching our own growth, watching us doing different things and letting us model those ways that we're pushing and we're learning and we're growing. And they feed off of that excitement. And next thing we know, they're joining in with us on it instead.
Wow, I love that. I love this idea. And if I heard this wrong, please let me know. But I love this idea of allowing your children to be bored so that they come and start asking questions. It's a great way for them to ask questions, to learn, to develop. And not only that, for you to be their own personal teacher. I think too many times we want the school system to teach, and we set them in front of the TV, and we look for those free babysitters that Ashley was talking about a minute ago. Right. And when we do that, so many times we get disappointed by different thoughts that they're having, or the language that they start using, the way they talk to us and stuff. But when we allow them to be bored, when we allow them to ask questions, like what you guys were just saying, when their brain is always on, they don't get that chance to sit here and go, let's go learn. Let's write a 20-page paper. Let's figure out these different ways to learn. So I love that about you guys. You guys are doing awesome work. As we conclude, tell us a little bit about your business and what is the best way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in asking more questions.
All right. So I have a business that is Mama Says Namaste, and I'm a marriage and family coach. So I help families go from chaos and reaction mode to living a life of intention and not waiting for one day, and recognizing the strengths in the family so that each family member thrives and you really do create that family life that you love to come home to. And so I do that through one-on-one coaching. I also do that. I also have these personality snapshots, which is what we've talked about. They're based on DISC, and I have those for kids as young as 5 years old and an ebook for even younger than that to help families understand how to parent to these different personality styles. And on top of that, we also have we have some resources specifically for families getting on the road. I've partnered with Full-Time Families to help families getting on the road. Also Acton Academy with the schooling aspect. And for Nathan, the big part that he's involved in is the Mama Says Namaste podcast. I brought him on for the marriage series that was my second season of the podcast, and he's been on ever since. And it is a blast because we get the opportunity to have those deep conversations that we love to have anyway on the topic of family and intentional living that we're passionate about. And we're able to share that with everyone else and share a bit about our travels as we go. So mamasaysnamaste.com and the Mama Says Namaste podcast are the best way to stay connected and to reach out with more questions as well.
That's great. I absolutely love that. Ashley, Nathan, thank you so much for jumping on to the Fatherhood Summit. You guys have given our listeners, and not only our listeners, I know for me personally, you've given me a lot to think about and a lot to digest. And I'm going to go back there where my girls are right now and give them a huge hug and just love on them. So thank you guys so much for being on. If you're listening and you want to learn more about what Ashley and Nathan are doing, go and check out their website. And let me make sure I say it right. Mama says namaste.
Yes.
There you go. So go check out the website. Check out what they're doing. Claire, when she was 8, I think, if I remember right, their daughter, and this is all a result of some of this learning that they've had a chance to do, wrote a book with her grandma and entitled "What If It Were Possible." And the entire book is phenomenal. It's something that I read to my 3 girls, each and every night. And it's a really big encouragement for especially kids to go out and use their imagination. You're only limited by what you can think about. And I love that about that book. That's something kids today need more and more of. So definitely, if you're listening, go check out their website. Go check out that book. If you want more information about what Wrestling with Fatherhood is all about, check out the website. Is www.fatherhood.com. Again, it's www.fatherhood.com. Check out our podcast at Wrestling with Fatherhood. Again, that's Wrestling with Fatherhood. Thank you for checking us out. I hope you guys all have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.